Good day. Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeff Hardy. I'm your host. We have a presentation for you today called Less is More, Consolidating MSP Tool Sets for Security, Efficiency, and Profit. I'm your host, Jeff Hardy, and I'm the Senior Manager of Solutions here at Acronis. And this is all about you as MSPs and how you can take and gain leverage by consolidating your tool sets. Let's get right into it. Let me show you two examples that I think that are really helpful. First is Digicore. They save up to $10,000 every month by consolidating with Acronis. That's a lot. That's meaningful. That's a meaningful savings for an MSP. Blue Moon IT Solutions, they save 30% every single month, all by switching to Acronis. Here's the key. These are true stories. These are real testimonials from real partners. But the real question is, how did they do it? Well, it's not simple. It's not something you can just simply say. It's something you have to kind of walk through to believe. And they do it by working on 2 points of leverage that Acronis delivers to MSPs that put us kind of uniquely in the marketplace and uniquely in a position to help MSPs become more operationally efficient and to make more profit. But to understand what they're doing, we need to kind of walk through some of the expenses and how they're allocated in MSP. And we're going to focus specifically on managed services. Now, I know that MSPs should have lots of different potential revenue streams, but the recurring revenue, the thing that most MSPs are relying most on, actually nearly 80%. I think the exact number is 78%, according to Canalys. But so that's nearly 4/5 of MSP's average revenue comes from managed services. That's recurring revenue. How does that recurring revenue break down? Let's take a look. It's related to what we call the golden ratio for MSP managed services. Well, what is that? Simply stated, it's 40-20-40. Now, it's off by 1% here, 1% there. You don't want to miss the whole point, but the industry standard is 40-20-40. 40% of the revenue that is generated from managed services is dedicated into overhead or internal technology. 20% to external technology. That's the technology that faces the customer. And then 40% is what's the services gross margin. And what's important though is what's in each one of those buckets. You have a 40 bucket, a 20 bucket, a 40 bucket. What's in each one of those buckets? Well, let's break it down a little bit further. Starting with the first 40, overhead and internal technology. Now, overhead, that's just what you'd expect it to be. You know, if you have an office, it's your space cost. If you have logistics issues, it's your logistics cost. It's management administration. If you have somebody who's in charge of just handling billing and things of that nature, their salaries and stuff. But the biggest chunk of overhead in internal technology is technician salary and benefits. The technician salary, the people who are actually delivering the services to your clients, their salaries and benefits take up about 75% of the overhead or 30% of the revenue. So if the entire number is 40%, their share is 30%. And so it's the biggest chunk. And then you have the internal technology. What's internal technology? It's your PSA. It's your ITSM, it's your CRM, it's your ERP if you have these tools. It's also your internal infrastructure. If you have a local server or you're hosting your website somewhere, these are all examples of your internal facing technology. That's where these costs are covered. So in your bill rate, about 40% of the revenue on average is dedicated to overhead and internal tech. The next chunk is external tech. Well, what's external tech? Well, this is the technology that's used in the delivery of your services, not necessarily including direct pass-through costs like storage, things of that nature. What's in that box? Well, from a Acronis perspective, the biggest chunk for managed services right now is right in our wheelhouse. It's security services and management services. So that is your RMM. It's usually the biggest piece. You have backup and disaster recovery for business continuity. You have security, EDR, XDR, email security, email backup, and there's other elements that could be a part of that, but it's these types of things. It's the software you buy to deliver the managed services that go into your complete bill to your customer. That's external technology. The third chunk, the third piece that's also a 40 is services gross margin. So everything else is the costs that are involved maintaining your existing clients and business. The 40% that's left is what's called gross margin. It's the amount of money left over after the cost of services delivered. Okay, now from that, you have your sales costs, marketing costs. These are the costs of getting new customers, employee retention and debt service. Might be a few other bits and pieces in there. Those are the big pieces. And then hopefully what's left after you pay those expenses is profit. That's where your profit comes in. So this is the golden ratio, 40-20-40, overhead and internal technology, then a category for external technology, and finally the services gross margin. All right, those are the big categories. Now, how do you calculate, how do you figure in your calculations in MSP how you charge per hour to maintain these ratios? Well, I'm going to walk through a couple example calculations, and I'm happy to help you with it. Let me show you a couple of examples. The first one, let's calculate it from a technician cost. Technician cost. Now, if you remember, the technician cost is a part of that first 40. It's the overhead and internal technology. And the benchmark is that the technician cost is about 30% of the bigger number, or 75% of your overhead number. So let's start on the right-hand side. Let's just build this example this way. According to recent recruiting surveys, the average hourly pay for an MSP technician is $27.49 per hour. There's a link there. We didn't just invent that number. It's an actual number we pulled from the industry. And then the taxes and benefits, again, another 30% number, it averages about 30% total compensation. So you add 30% onto that $27.49, you get a number of $39.27 per hour. You back that number out. So that's the total compensation cost, right? Let's go back onto the left-hand side. We follow that example, 39.27 times 2,000 hours per year. That's your total cost for a technician, $78,540. Now it could be a little bit higher in deep urban environments inside the United States. These are United States numbers. You have to make maybe a little adjustment for your particular region, but it might be a little bit less in Alabama and in Mississippi and in Kentucky and in Tennessee. Right there in the heartland, things are a little bit less expensive. But if you're on the coasts, that number might be a little bit low. The average number is $78,540. Now, if you look at that, your technician benchmark is 30%. So if you divide 30%, if you divide by 30%, that implies $261,800 of associated services revenue. Divide that by 12 months, it's 21,817. That's the amount of revenue this single technician should be able to support your organization. And then we divide it again by another number. That number is 250. Now, why did I pick the number 250? Well, I didn't pick it. It is, according to Canalys, that is the average number of endpoints or seats supported per technician in the MSP right now. It's not the optimal number, but it is the average number. That yields an $87.27 revenue target per seat or per device per month. Does that make sense? That's how you get that number, 87.27. Okay, it's an important number. That should be your target in this scenario. That should be your target. So now let's look at it. Let's try to approach that same bill rate from a different perspective. Let's calculate it based upon external technology costs. Now I'm going to base this on a kind of a security portfolio. Right? That makes perfect sense for Acronis, right? It actually makes perfect sense for the industry as well, because again, security services are the biggest growth market, MSPs for right now. So again, the external benchmark technology is 20%. Look on the right-hand side. Services, these are our benchmark unit prices across the industry. We've done a lot of research, our competitors, industry standard benchmarks for XDR, $4.20 a month, the entry level DLP, $250, and so on. You get a total external technology unit cost per seat or device of $17.60 per month. Okay, well, it kind of makes sense, right? $17.60. Go back to the left. All we have to do is divide 1760 by the 20%, that's the benchmark, yields a target revenue number with these costs of $88 per seat or device per month. Well, that's convenient. Let's compare those two. We've now calculated this two ways, coming from two different angles of our golden ratio, and we get technician cost method, 87.27. External cost method, 88. Well, they're darn close to each other, aren't they? They're pretty much in perfect alignment. This is a target revenue number. Well, if your numbers are aligned with that, you have the makings of a healthy revenue model for your business. You're in alignment with the golden ratio across the board. You can calculate this multiple different methods, and you do this to make sure any of your costs are not over or under what they should be. So, for example, when you do this, you could multiply it, you could figure in your overhead costs, like space costs and administrative costs, and then back into it that way. If all your numbers point to the same narrow band, you know you're probably doing a pretty good job and you're set to go. But the key is, this is just industry standard. This is not how those two great examples at the beginning. Remember, we talked about how Digicore is saved $10,000 a month by switching to Acronis. And we talked about how Blue Moon saving 30% per month by shifting to Acronis. How did they do that? Well, the key is they found a way to change the outcomes. So let's see how we would adjust these numbers by using Acronis to take and get a better outcome that's more in alignment with what we want to do. So let's recalculate. Here's example 3. Let's recalculate from an efficient technician cost. Now you'll note on the right-hand side, the example, the hourly rate has not changed. It has not changed. Okay. On the left side, it starts out the same, but there's a difference. Can you see what the difference is? Let me highlight that difference for you. Instead of 250 devices or seats, we've upped it to 350. Now, we partnered with the Canals once again, and while their numbers say 250 is the industry MSP standard, 350 is the gold standard. This is where the top performing MSPs around the world are managing 350 devices or users or endpoints per technician on average. And how do you get to that number? Well, if you can get to that number, it gets you a per seat per revenue or per device per month of $62.33. That's a big jump. Yeah, that's a jump of wow. That's a big jump from $87 down to $62. That's $25 a month less using the same calculation method. So now let's do the same thing. We've just talked about making your technicians more efficient. That gets you an extra $25 per seat of leeway. Now let's find it by using technology, performance technology cost. Same security services. You're delivering this exact same portfolio, but you have Acronis entry-level pricing. Now, this is just level 1, current level 1 commit pricing model. Additional discounts and stuff are available, but we're starting as fair as we possibly can at the lowest level with the commitment with Acronis. All those numbers are less. So when we do the same calculation on the left-hand side, we divide the 1360 by 20%, we get $68 per revenue seat device per month. Wow, that's impressive. So now we have, if you remember, that was 87 on one side previously and 88 on the other. Now it's 61 on one side and 68 on the other. We are taking $20 or more room. Consolidating your services with Acronis makes your team more efficient, and consolidating with Acronis gets you an average lower price across the broad range of security portfolios, gets you this optimization. Now, how do you use that? Well, you can use this extra margin many ways, right? You can take, and but the $20 or more per seat or device has been freed up. It allows you to offer a more competitive price point. You can bolster your profitability, or you could do both. So simply said, this is the bottom line. These are the two leverage points that I was telling you about, Digicore and Blue Moon. Remember, we talked about that at the very, very beginning. We asked how they did it. Digicore and Blue Moon used Acronis to provide leverage for lower external technology costs and to increase efficiency. Now, it's important to also say that when you consolidate security solutions, it also makes you and your clients more secure. Why? The fewer agents you have installed, the fewer updates that you have to manage, the fewer screens that are required. It lowers the threat vector window, and it reduces the lag time for doing remediation. Those two things make you more secure. So this is the bottom line. Lower technology cost yields higher efficiency, and better security makes you more profitable, more competitive, and it reduces churn. So let's bring this all together. Let's see if we can bring it all together, right? No matter what kind of services you're doing, if you're doing something in the cyber resilience area, you're making businesses more resilient, covering and protecting things like servers and VMs and cloud instances with backup and DR and so on, right? That's great. You can also have a segment of your business that's protecting workspaces, laptops, desktops, or workstations. Well, there's a set of solutions that keep those things more secure as well, right? There's also SaaS security, things like M365 and Google Workspace that for backup and security, protecting collaboration, archiving, and all those. There's so many more there. Well, the key is if you can take and bring them all together with Acronis, the closer you get to bringing the Acronis, the closer you get to bringing them into Acronis, makes each one more efficient, which lowers the cost across each one. Now, you don't have to. Acronis is not an all or nothing proposition. You can just use Acronis for protecting your workspaces, or you can put some clients on different solutions and other clients are Acronis. The key is, though, the more you consolidate with Acronis, the better it is for you and your customers. Because remember, the more you consolidate, the lower your external technology costs, and the more efficient your operation is, and the more secure your environments are. But this is not just us saying it. Let me give you a couple of more testimonials. Chuck Canton is the CEO of SourcePass. They're a major MSP in North America. He said Acronis is MSP friendly. The products, the licensing, the technology are all designed with us in mind. Consolidating on Acronis makes all the difference. That's right on the point we're talking about right now. But let me give you another one. We have Joseph Migliozzi. He's the president of M3 Technologies, another MSP, and he said consolidating on the Acronis stack just makes sense. Everything is more secure. Our team is more efficient, and response time has been accelerated, and that means better service to our clients. They are feeling the benefits themselves. One more for you. This is Joshua Ahrens, and he's the COO and co-founder of Panda Technology. And he said Acronis is our core platform, covers everything. The efficiency it brings is unmatched, saving us time, reducing costs, and minimizing training efforts. Having everything in a single console makes managing our stack seamless and streamlined. And you know what? The analysts agree as well. We are starting to get wonderful reviews across our entire portfolio, specifically helping MSPs deliver security services from our RMM to our EDR solution to our backup. We are just getting some great analyst press. We can send as many of these to you as you want to do. Now, I went ahead and gathered. Let's go ahead and I've given this presentation a number of times, and I've gathered a couple of common questions that I get from my audience when I deliver this presentation. Do I have to consolidate all of my clients to get the pricing and the better efficiency? We touched on that earlier, and the answer is no. But remember, the closer you get to consolidating everything with Acronis, the more cost effective it's going to be and the more efficient you are going to be. But yeah, you don't have to. You can start with one or two customers. You could start with if you don't have the resources to do a complete migration right now, you can sign up as a partner and just bring all new customers onto the Acronis platform. Whatever works best for you. It's not an all or nothing. That said, we wanted to keep this one short, so I just want to say thank you. I look forward to seeing you all at one of the Acronis in-person events or at another Acronis webinar. I do a lot of online presentations for Acronis. I hope I see you there. Make sure you say hi. Reach out to me on LinkedIn or on Twitter X and say hi at Jeffrey J. Hardy. Let me know, or if I see you live at an event, I'm happy to answer all your questions. I hope we've been helpful. Remember, the closer you get to consolidate everything with Acronis, the better it is for everybody. It's the biggest win-win-win in the history of MSP. I think it's great. Thank you for your time and attention. I look forward to working with you all. Cheers. Bye for now.